So this is, I think, a very beautiful custom that before we leave our teacher, then we formally ask for forgiveness if there is any action of body, speech, and mind which might have been inappropriate, intentional, unintentional, in public, in private. We ask for forgiveness. And then the teacher says, Ahang kamami, means I forgive you. Tu me hipi me kamitapang. Then please forgive me also if I have said or done anything which might have caused you any discomfort or distress unintentionally. And then the teacher also, such an occasion, says that just as I forgive you for anything inappropriate that you might have done, I also express appreciation for all the hard work and the effort and the sincerity and dedication you've all shown during these last few days, or this period together, and that any merit that I've made through sharing the Dhamma with you, I share with all of you. So this is how we end. Endings are very important. Endings stick in the mind disproportionately. This is why whatever kind of meeting, we have like a beautiful harmonious meeting together, or maybe sometimes not such a harmonious meeting with people, whoever it may be, it's really important to end it in a good way, because that's what sticks in your mind. So even if you have like a meeting or a business meeting of some kind, or a family meeting, and it's a bit stormy meeting, and some strong emotions expressed, you observe if you can end it kindly, and so just now I'm sorry, I got a little bit upset, and it's a sensitive issue for me, and if I said anything inappropriate, please forgive me, and just try to find a way to resolve things as best you can before you leave the room. You notice when you look back on that meeting afterwards, that sense of resolution and forgiveness at the end of the meeting sticks in your mind more than the arguments and the bad feelings that preceded it. So this is a simple observation of human psychology, but it's a good thing to remember. And similarly, every day, you have good days and bad days, and don't go to bed in a bad mood. Just with anxiety and anger and or unresolved feelings towards your other family members. Try to end the day as best you can. Obviously, you won't be able to resolve everything, but making that effort to try to bring every day to a wholesome ending. So a few minutes of just a little bit of chanting and meditation. And one of the values of the chanting is that sometimes if you feel really agitated and you sit, and maybe it's just too tough to meditate very well. But these the chants that we've been chanting and finding, there's a lot to choose from, and you can find usually some of these chants that really have some meaning for you, like chanting on loving kindness that we just chanted a few minutes ago, and to have a period of chanting before we go to bed, and to spread loving kindness to all your family members and to all your work colleagues and to all sentient beings in your town and your city, in your country, in your and your country and your continent and your world and your universe. It's just a really good way to end the day. And you'll notice if you're really agitated before when you go to sleep, one, it's difficult to get to sleep, but you'll be pretty well agitated when you get up in the morning. And Ajahn Chah used to say, if you've been like people who do practice the meditation mantra Buddho, he said, you sustain that, and you fall asleep Buddho Buddho, and you wake up Buddho Buddho, and it's like continuous. So he says this is the kind of mindfulness. And sometimes he'd ask people to say, did you fall asleep on the in-breath or the out-breath last night? So I've never seen anyone brave enough to affirm, which one it was. So anyway, this is it's been I've enjoyed this a lot the last few days, and as I say, it's quite a novelty for me to teach in English since the Chinese government won't let me teach in China anymore. Whereas the last few occasions when I've been doing things like this. But it is meritorious, and as I say, meritorious is it's uplifting, it's cleansing, and you really like something shifts, something moves, and it's a matter of don't let that just dissipate, and keep working at it. So just a very, very brief recap, this, what we call this education system, the Eightfold Path, as I did mention at one point, is usually divided into what we call the threefold training. So the eight is resolved into three. So the training of conduct, the training of the heart, and the training of wisdom. And in the Eightfold Path, in fact, the wisdom factors, right view, right intention come first, and then the conduct factors of right action, right speech, right action, right livelihood, and then the training of the heart, right effort, right mindfulness, and right concentration or stability of heart. But in my own efforts to try to find a way of integrating this into school system, one of the obstacles was that if you tell parents that you're trying to establish like an ordinary education system for children on these principles, it sounds too religious, and people are afraid that when they graduate, the kids want to become monks or nuns or something like this, which is not the purpose. So I looked around for some alternative means of presenting the same ideas, and I found in the sutta this teaching we call the four pavana, or the four kinds of cultivation. And it covers the same ground as sila, samadhi, panya, but in a way that can be presented in a kind of secular and practical way, which is more obviously applicable to a normal education system. So in this formulation, the first area of our practice is in our relationship to the material world. So it's an education of how we live, how we relate to the material world. And so the obviously the first and most intimate aspect of the material world is our bodies. So how do you practice with regard to physical bodies? So the incredible brilliance of the human mind. We can create computers and iPhones and spacecraft and do all these incredible things. And yet on this most basic kind of kindergarten level of treating your body wisely, most people fail miserably. So I think it's very important to remember that this is not in any way a completely separate thing from meditation and samatha and vipassana and all these kinds of terms, but eating well, eating at the right time, sleeping a reasonable amount, not too much, not too little, exercising every day. Now these things are so basic, and yet how many of us can say, yeah, we really give that kind of care and attention to. We spend a lot of attention to making the body beautiful and attractive and so on. But in terms of taking care of the body, but not in a way that you become obsessed and sort of overly sort of worried and concerned with the body, but it's the vessel that you need for Dhamma practice. But then from there, from your body, then you're expanding to the material world around you, the world of money, possessions, technology, all the aspects of the material world which you have a daily relationship, and to find a balanced way of relating to those things. So you can, be the close disciple of an arahant, but if you are in debt and you're not wise in your use of money, very unlikely that you're going to be very peaceful. So care and attention to money matters, care and attention to these basic mundane things. And of course, big one is social media and technology and devices. This is the way the language. When I was a young man, a long time ago, when I was a teacher, there's an English idiom which is like left to your own devices. That means like left to your own resources. I'm going to just leave you alone now. Leave you to your own. There's a teacher. Teacher wants to go out for a cigarette or something. So I've got to leave you for your own devices for the time. It means leave you to yourself, your own resources. And now leaving someone to their own devices has a whole different meaning. And it's the opposite of depending on their own resources. So devices, developing awareness and care and this sense of podi, what's not too much, not too little, and that's something that you can only know through trial and effort, and it changes from day to day or month to month, from year to year, so you have to be mindful of that. And then expanding from that is our relationship to the material environment, and we know that the climate is changing rapidly and mostly in a not very good way, and we all have a part to play in that, in the way that we consume and our choices and extravagance or frugality in the use of the material world, bringing attention to that also. Second area is that of the other external element is our relationship to the society and the people around us, our families, our friends, our colleagues, our community, the society we live in. And talking about the importance of precepts, and precepts as your basic objects of mindfulness in daily life. Okay, so people say, how can I be mindful in daily life? But it's not like there is this kind of floating mystical quality called mindfulness. Mindfulness is very precise. You have to be mindful of something. So you have to have very clear objects of mindfulness. And your basic fundamental objects of mindfulness in daily life are the 5 precepts. These will keep you on track. If you compromise on any of those, then you're in trouble. If you're on track with the 5 precepts, then momentary lapses of mindfulness and foolishness and greed and hatred, they don't have any really lasting effect. You can get back in the saddle and make amends for that without too much difficulty. The Buddha referred to the 5 precepts as the greatest gift that you can give to the people around you, because the fundamental human need is safety before anything else. If you feel unsafe or your family is unsafe, you can't be at peace. You're constantly on edge. And if we're in relationships or in any environment where we feel physically unsafe, or we're liable to abuse of any kind, or we don't trust the people around us, then you can read all the Buddhist books you want, and you can listen to all the YouTube talks, and it won't go very far, if you're in a situation where you don't feel safe. And receiving that feeling of safety and giving that feeling of safety is absolutely fundamental to both individual cultivation and also healthy families and healthy communities. So you say, I still have some. You say to your people around you, yeah, I'm not perfect. I'm not a saint. I still have feelings of anger and aversion, and I lose my temper sometimes, and I get irritated and so on. But no matter how negative I feel, I promise you, I will never abuse you physically or verbally in any way. So this is not like an overly idealistic standard, that we should all love each other, and it's a hippie idea. It's not realistic. But what we can say is, yeah, I'm working on this. Okay, I'm really trying to work on reducing this anger and negativity and ill will in my heart. It's a work in progress. But in the meantime, I reassure you that I will never hurt you physically or verbally. And that's the most wonderful thing that you can give to anybody. You don't need a lot of money to give this gift. You don't need any money. But you can give this gift to all those around you. You say, I'm still greedy. I still see things. I would really like that, and it would be so cool, and that would be so great. But I will never act upon that and take anything of yours. Never steal from you, cheat you. And so how does that feel? If you know that and you trust somebody who says that, you relax, don't you? That person's not going to abuse you, it's not going to hurt you, it's not going to steal from you. And then you're in a relationship and you say, well, yeah, I'm a normal man, I'm a normal woman, I still have, I can't help it. Sometimes I see someone, a woman, and I find her very attractive, or the woman says, I still see a man I find very handsome. This is just normal human biology, nothing to be ashamed of. But you say, even though those feelings arise every now and again, I never act upon them. They're just feelings, and I recognize them, and I don't say I shouldn't have those feelings. It's to say, oh, this is biology, but I'm not going to make anything out of them. I'm not going to indulge in them. I'm not going to sit and daydream about these things and create fantasies about them, and I'm certainly not going to act upon them or speak upon them. So this is in a relationship, you can relax, can't you? You don't have to worry. You don't have to, there's feelings of jealousy and concern, and you can just put all that down. And it's not expecting too high a standard of someone. You can't expect someone only to think that you're the only beautiful woman in the world. Only in songs and in like movies, maybe this can happen. But in the course of a long relationship, there are desires and things that come up, but it's whether or not, how much importance you give to those things and whether you act upon them, which is, how we sustain relationship. This is the integrity and the sincerity and commitment that you make in relationship. And then you say, yeah, I mean, the impulse to lie and to, as we've spoken about this before, it comes up, because maybe we're embarrassed, or we're afraid if somebody knows the truth, maybe they won't look at us, they won't respect us in the same way anymore, or they won't like us anymore, or and so on. And so so many reasons to compromise on the truth. But this is something you say, I won't lie to you. Maybe I won't always tell you all the truth. Like I say, sometimes there are private things that I don't feel comfortable, but I won't deceive you. I won't consciously mislead you. And then that's a wonderful gift that you give to others. It's a priceless gift. Now, those four promises we make to the people around us, they're. If you say to someone, I won't ever abuse you physically, verbally, I won't steal from you, I won't cheat on you, I won't deceive you, I won't lie to you. But, if every now and again I have a drink, I'm not sure, I'll try, but, the whole thing just crumbles, doesn't it? So if it's conditioned, and if there are some times when you can trust someone and sometimes when you can't, and then it doesn't work. So you say, I will refrain from any drug, any drink, anything which will compromise or undermine my ability to keep these promises to you. So this is, I think, a really good way of looking at the fifth precept, and it's a gift that you give to enable you to keep these promises and to give this sense of safety to those around you. So this is also like essential part of this cultivation and this education that the Buddha taught us. Then the education of the heart. So we divide mental states into two kinds: the wholesome, the unwholesome, the skillful, the unskillful. And we have 4 tasks for these 2 kinds of mental states. Firstly, learning how to protect the mind so that the unwholesome states don't arise in the first place. And secondly, when that doesn't work, and we do have unwholesome mental states, then we're developing the ability and the effort to abandon them in the best possible way. Then regarding the wholesome mental states, also 2 things to do. One is those wholesome states which are not yet in the mind, to try to find ways to bring them into the mind. And then as they start to appear, the 4th right effort is to cultivate and to bring those mental states to maturity. Now, if you observe, when we're meditating, this is exactly what we're doing. By putting your mind on an object, you are seeking to develop the skill to prevent hindrances and negative mental states from entering the mind. When you lose your mindfulness and then a negative mental state does arise, then you're developing the skills to recognize a negative mental state as a negative mental state and develop skillful means to let go. You are seeking to establish within the mind these positive mental states such as mindfulness, clear comprehension, patience, contentment, effort, enthusiasm for the good and the true. All these kinds of mental states are cultivated in the meditation, and then when they start to arise, we learn how to take care of them and to increase them and bring them to maturity. Now, in your daily life, when you don't have the same time and the same opportunity for this like formal meditation, then how do you practice? Well, if you look at practice in terms of these 4 right efforts with regard to negative, positive, negative mental states, that gives you a real, a very clear approach. So I often give this example: you drive to work in the morning, and you say, what are the kinds of negative mental states that I need to protect my mind from, that will usually arise when I drive to work? Oh yeah, maybe I'm getting stressed out, or I get angry with people who drive selfishly, or and so your strategy is, and it's like a challenge. Okay, can I drive to work today without those negative mental states arising? What do I need to do with my mind in such a way as to best protect it? And if those negative mental states do arise, what am I going to do about them? And then what kind of positive mental states can I arise? So you go into a meeting, you're going to a meeting, if you sit there and close your eyes and just watch your breath, you'll probably get the sack unless you're the CEO, in which case you'll probably be thought of as a genius, but otherwise, you get kicked out. It's just not the right time and place. So you say, well, okay, in a meeting, what are the kind of, what are the things that have come up in the past which, I get bored, or I get, frustrated when people go on and talk off topic, and when people get too full of themselves and become very conceited, and these kinds of aversions that come up, and so this, so apart from wanting to do the work and attend to the business at hand, you also have a spiritual goal to be able to navigate this meeting without these negative mental states. Okay, and what kind of, you're not going to be able to develop like deep meditation in a business meeting, but what wholesome mental states can you cultivate? Patience, communication skills, good listening skills. So that you can establish spiritual goals even in the most kind of worldly situation, if you're looking at it in terms of this protection against unwholesome mental states and dealing skillfully with those that do arise, establishing wholesome mental states and cultivating and increasing those that have already arisen. And this is how you have this sense of sustaining practice throughout the day. If you're not thinking in terms of, I haven't been able to meditate all day today, but if you have this sense of, I've done a lot of really good work today. Developed some patience, developed some kindness, been a lot more mindful and careful in my work, and so on. So this bringing this quality of attention to daily life. And there are these short periods. You might be standing in the lift, going up a lift, like 3 minutes, 4 minutes even. So what do people do? Sometimes people look in the mirror and look at them and admire themselves, and some people just like sort of dream. But this is the time where you can do some formal practice. Establish your if you're standing there, you don't have to talk to anybody. Just come to the breath, and you just let go of the tension in your body. Reestablish mindfulness, and there are these short little periods: 1 minute, 2 minutes, 3 minutes, 5 minutes. Whether it's walking up and down stairs, standing in a lift, where you can come back to yourself and make a fresh start if you're getting a little bit stressed out or you're losing your awareness, and you can avoid that feeling of the end of the day. What a day, because you're not allowing that stress to accumulate over a period of hours, over a period of the day. And the last area is this wisdom cultivation, and this is learning to look and to learn from experience, And these three characteristics. The most obvious and apparent is change, and we call mai ne, the unpredictability, the maybe not nature. When we have this strong emotion, within that strong emotion is a sense this is real and this is permanent. Let's say people who fall into depression, is part of that feeling of depression is it's always going to be like this. I've always been like this. I always will be like this. Nothing will ever get any better. So this sense of like permanent, universal, miserable condition. But when you have a strong greed and desire for something, the same. It feels like so real and so permanent and so much part of who you are. But through this constant observation, you see, I really like this. Yeah, but it's not sure. It's transient. It's maybe not. Yeah, today I like it. Maybe tomorrow I won't. It's changeable. It's changeful. So seeing things as inherently changeful, that means their very nature is to change. Their very nature is to wax and wane and even disappear. And being able to see this as a quality of experience, a changefulness of experience, that there's nothing that you can grasp onto, and this is it. Everything is changing. And so just bringing your mind again and again, where again it's observation, you have problem with somebody at work, and you say, oh, what a misery having to work with this guy. So, and then one day you say, yeah, these days things are a lot better than they used to be. He seems to have changed, and these kinds of experiences, so mundane, and so many of them use things that really seemed to be one way, and then it wasn't the way that we thought they would be, and we were really worried about something, and then it completely turned out another way. I mean, when you think about all the things you've really worried about in the past, how many times did that bad thing that you worried about actually occur? Very few times, maybe even never. So remembering that, when you get into this worry mind, you have this database of groundless worries from the past. You can, I used to worry about that, and I used to worry about this, and even stronger, and it didn't happen like that. So so what if this and what if that? Yeah, well, what if it doesn't happen? So just one more point, and I often come back to this story again and again because really influenced me. Was a story of Ajahn Sumedho in England in the very beginning, when there were a lot of people before they moved into the countryside, living in the city, and a lot of people would come and heard they were monks and wanted to come sort of challenge them, and some asking questions, but others wanting to put them on the spot. And so this man came and said, "Okay, you're a pacifist, that right? You don't hurt or harm any living being. So what would happen if a crazy maniac was to attack your mother with a knife? What would you do?" This is a classic kind of moral dilemma, a pacifist moral dilemma. So what Ajahn Sumedho said was, I don't know. And this I love this, and I think it's so important, especially as you become older and you become an authority figure. Be brave enough to say you don't know when you don't know. There's no shame in not knowing. Don't pretend. This is like fourth precept as well. You don't have to know. He said, I don't know. He said, I don't know, but I am confident that if I practice mindfulness, if I'm mindful, I will conduct myself, I will respond in the best possible way. But I can't say in advance, I will do this or I won't do that, because there are so many different causes and conditions. All these situations are far more complex than moral dilemmas allow for. So I'm not going to say I would do this or I wouldn't do that, but I would say that if my refuge and my confidence is not in controlling situations or having a set plan or a checklist or a book in that way, but I know from my experience that when I'm mindful, I make good choices, and when I'm not mindful, I make bad choices. And so my refuge is in mindfulness and awareness. So this bringing this clarity of attention and this interest in learning and observation of experience, both things that are pleasant and unpleasant, and this development of our relationship to the material world, our relationship to the social world, the cultivation, the abandonment and training to let go of negative emotion, cultivation of positive emotion, and the cultivation of the wisdom faculty, and developing this more and more, and of course being enhanced through the formal meditation until finally reaching these levels of vipassana and the opportunity to be free of the very liberated from the very roots of all suffering. So I'd like to share these words of advice and encouragement with you all, and Modena, and express my appreciation of all the efforts you've made the past few days, and we'll be traveling off home in various places, different countries, and so those of you who I wish you all safe journey home, and some of you will be traveling with me a little for another day, so we'll have a bit more time together. But may you all be well and happy.